What's going on, you guys? It's Keinan Briggs, sports consultant and mentor. This gentleman in front of us is Matthew Boling. He is a superstar athlete, and I want to say one of the many talents that we should be keeping an eye on for the future because he may be a part of that group that is the face of USA track and field. I decided to do this video because I am noticing a trend that's not new. It just happens that when we have athletes that can do it all, just a world-class athlete, there are many, many ways that we can manage that athlete to benefit the athlete and the team. And so I noticed that the hype going into NCAA championship indoors was around him and his performance, and they expected him to do these great feats, and he just fell short. And he kind of took the blame for falling short. And I said to myself, well, is he the one to blame, or is he the one that did the best that he could? You know, and what faltered? What was the issue towards his performance or lack thereof, depending on the perspective that happened? So I went back and did some research and looked at his indoor season. So the first thing I looked at was Clemson. This is the 14th, 15th of January. And he was entered into events. The results that I'm looking at are off of the track and field results page. And basically, he jumped really well. He opened up with 27 feet 1 inch, 8 meters 25, and also with 20.49 in the 200. So I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, he did 2 events. He took, upwards of 6 jumps in the long jump. And looking at the time schedule, Friday, 4 p.m. was the long jump. So he did long jump only for that day. That was it. Unobstructed, focus on long jump, had a great day. Then on Saturday at 2 p.m., he performed the 200. Another great day. 2 first place wins at the Clemson Invitational. The next week, the Samford Invite, he only ran the 60. Okay. In this, there was a prelim and there was a finals. In the prelims, he ran a 6:65. The prelims were roughly, I'm not sure in these exact times, but it was midday, 12 or so, something like that. And then he ran the 60-meter final where he ran faster, ran a 6:60. And that was it. He ran 1 day track meet. He's in, he's out, strictly business. Great management there, in my opinion, with shifting it from, the 200, the long jump, and also the 60, because we can see these are the events he might be doing later on. Then a week later, Razorback Invitational. Now we look at more of a busy schedule, right? So what he had was Friday, he had 2 events. He did the long jump at 2 p.m., unobstructed, did really well. 8 meters 5, 26.5 is the distance in American ways, I guess, English or whatnot. Then in the evening at 6:10 p.m. on Friday, he ran a very, very fast 200, 20.27, flying, right? Moving down the track. Then the very next day, Saturday at 4 p.m., he joined up with his team, debuted in the relay, and they ran a 3 minutes, 4 seconds, ran a very fast time. Boling at this point is still undefeated, still doing very, very well. And it's just, they're managing him well. He's rested, he's doing his thing. Then the Tiger Paw, this is a couple weeks later, invite back at Clemson, where he only ran the 200. This might have been a tune-up. This might have been fixing a couple of things. This might have maybe just to keep him like moving, right? He ran a 20.41, ran very well. Again, first place. He's still undefeated, doing his thing. Now we gear up for the SEC Indoor Championships. As you can see, this is 2 weeks later. Now we're seeing 4 events. Well, what does 4 events really actually mean, right? 3 events entered in, however, 4 events when it comes into the overall performance. He performed 4 times, right? So now we look at it and we see the SEC championships. Now on Friday, he did two events. He did the long jump and he did the 60 meter. So the long jump went off at 5:15 p.m., which means that him running the 60 meter dash at 6 p.m., he might have been bumped back to back with these events. Not completely sure, other than I do know that when you long jump, depending if they had two pits or not, could take X amount of time. Usually a flight takes about 45 minutes or so. So you have the long jump. He runs that. He starts with that, but he's also having to gear up for the 60 prelim on that same day, that Friday. So he jumped fairly decent, right? 7 meters 90 compared to his world-class levels. And then you look at the prelim where he ran a 6.59. And that was on Friday. And those events were virtually back to back, a little bit of overlap when it comes to warm up. And then on Saturday at 4:42, he ran the 60 meter final. So he was fresh for that. Mind you, this was his first time doing two events on one day, then two events the next day. He did do previously two events on one day, then one event the next day. So nothing's new for him yet. Then he does the 4x4 later on that night at 7:10, and they run a very fast time again, a 3:02:59. So this was his first time having 2 days, two events. Prior to that, it was the Razorback Invitational where he had 2 days with three events, only two events on the same day. So he's still looking at, even now, two events on the same day, both Friday and Saturday. The thing that is new is that he had two events also on the second day. So his body's starting to wear. Then we look at the Division I Indoor Championships, which was about 3 weeks later on. So now we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 performances. And so when we look at that, we look at, okay, well, long jump at 4 p.m. was the final, prelim and final for long jump. Then we also see that there was the 60 meter and the 200. So at 4 p.m. was the long jump. 4:15 was the prelim for the 60 meter dash. Then at 5:25 was a 200. So now we're looking at, we have to long jump and do the 60 meter prelim at the same time. And we're looking to qualify for the 60 meter final, but we're also looking to place as high as possible in the long jump. So now in the long jump, we're trying to place as high as we can, trying to win, yet we have to pause the long jump while we go do the 200, or not the 200, the 60. So he does that. He ends up jumping, 7 meters, 86, 25, 9.5, placing third. And if you notice, I'll go into later on his progression throughout the series. So he ends up having to leave the long jump to go do the 60 meter prelims, where he runs a 6:56 and finishes second overall. Then when he finishes, goes back to long jump, does that, and then runs a 200 later on at 5:25, where he places first. He runs a very, very fast time. He runs a 20.42. Now, that's 3 events in one day. This is the first time that he's done 3 events in one day. And on top of that, 2 of the events were conflicted because they were at the same time. Now he wakes up the next day and he runs in the evening for 4:10. He has the 60 meter final. In that 60 meter final, he runs, and there was a discrepancy. The discrepancy led to them having to rerun the event. So granted, he did not run the full 60, but he did run and have his emotions set towards running and completing the race. So I don't know the specifics on how much time they had to recover and rest. I would assume they did. But he ran the 60 1.5 times, let's say. Now at the 4:50, he runs a 200 and gets disqualified in the final. So what happened was his left knee happens to be his jump knee. his jump knee, he tends to jump with a band or something around under his knee. Whenever athletes wear tape or KT tape or bands around their legs, it lets me know that something is wrong. Now, granted, it might not be, but if I'm wearing a Band-Aid, typically I'm wearing a Band-Aid because something's going on. I might have a cut. If I'm wearing KT tape, I'm just reminding myself that something's happened. So to me, whenever an athletes are wearing tape or anything on their body that's foreign to the body, to me, I see it as something's wrong. And so I noticed that he had jumped 27-1 at the Clemson invite with a knee brace on. And that knee brace, to me, was something to look out for. And then now we get to the 200 final on Saturday, March 12th, and his left knee buckles and his left ankle buckles. And that led to him being off balance, which led to them running on the line, and he was disqualified for that. Something that I just noticed. Also, that left leg was also his jump leg the night before where he did those jumps, right? So if we go back, I don't see a 200 that was ran. Razorback was one the day after. So this was his first time doing the 200 after the long jump. The other events, he ran the 200 after, yes, but it was on the same day. It wasn't the next day. Okay. Then we go forward to the 4x4. The 4x4 was at 5:20. So pretty close to running the other two events, where their team ended up finishing fourth overall, 3:05.46. Now, he isn't the one to blame, but my question is, this is a lot of events and a lot of time frame to go forward. So I dove in more to what was going on. And so here's just the schedule of the events. But I dove in and I looked at, okay, for prelims, let's go to Friday first. Looked at, these are his times. And I looked at the names like Javante and, Robert from TCU, the guys from South Carolina, right? I looked at their athletes, and most of the athletes do either sprints or jumps. Not many athletes, even the long jump on the far right. The long jump, no one does the sprints and jumps that qualify for the final. Wayne, Carey, those guys are jumpers only. I do think there's a couple guys that do sprints, but none of them do more than 2 events. So that means that if they did multiple events and they did the 60 and made the 60-meter final, they only did the 60 and the long jump, right? And then they came back and then only did the 60 for the final. So they were a lot more fresh than Boling was. And so if you look on here on the 60, you have Faber Ash, but you don't have Wayne, you don't have Carey, you don't have Rico, right? None of these guys did the 60. So Matthew was the only athlete that had to leave to go do the 60, right? And then from there, I don't see any other names that move over from the long jump to the 200. So Matthew Boling is the only guy that's in these events at a high level, which lets you guys know that it's just a lot of wear and tear on his body. Then even here, when it comes to the final, he just performed at a lower level because he was tired. Nothing wrong with this process. It's just bringing to light the things that are happening. And so when you think about it, 6 events, or the long jump, you can see here, right? Wayne opened up with 750. Carey opened up with 791. This is the long jump prelims and finals. So Matthew ended up jumping 769 on his first jump, and that qualified him for the final already. Okay. So he did the second jump. So I'm assuming he did the first 2 jumps and then he passed. Why did he pass? He passed because he had to go do the 60-meter prelim, which no one else did, right? The X's are fouls. The dashes are passes. Now, Boling comes back after passing the third round because he ran the 60. Then they had to reorder the jumpers. They probably gave some time to do some run-throughs for any guys who made it, I'm assuming. And then you can see his next jump is 22 feet. How? Why? You know what I mean? How does that happen? How do you end up 22 feet? It could have been a bad jump, but I'm thinking he probably was tired from running that 60. Then on his 5th round jump, it ends up being his best jump. He puts together a jump and he's good to go, right? And then the 6th round, a 23-foot jump again. I'm pretty sure he's tired. He might have really just said, I really got to jump this 26 feet. Why? Because he needed to jump far, right? And then last jump, he jumps 23.11, 3/4, obviously not the level that he wants to jump, okay? So again, the dash mark is because Wayne knew that he already won. So that was it. He let it go, passed it. And so when you look at those 6 events that Boling did in 3 days, 3 events each day, you think about, well, who else has that type of load? It's the decathletes or pentathletes, the guys. And so they have the 60, they have a long jump, they have shot put, high jump, the hurdles, pole vault, and the 1,000-meter run. So that right there is 7 events. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 events. And Boling did 6. Now, granted, these guys train for this over and over again, but their body is used to it. But if I were to go to Aiden Owens and look at his personal best, each event, he might have better individual personal events. However, when you do all these events at the same time, it's very hard. Okay. So what I'm saying is Boling essentially did his own version of the pentathlon. He ran the 60, he did long jump. He did the 200, he did the 60, 200, and also 4x4, which is a lot. Now, this is not a bash for the program. This is not a bash for what he did or anything. All I'm simply doing is shining light on how important athlete management is. Let me go back to the main page. How important athlete management is. Boling could have simply said, hey, I'm going to step up. Maybe one of our guys got hurt. I want to step up and I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy to be the one who comes and finishes for our athletes. They could have required him to do the multiple events. He needed to essentially be a part of 4 winning events. That would have given them many, many points, right? So there are a lot of factors that could have played into this. I don't know. I'm not on campus. I don't know what's going on. But when it comes to coaches, as we coach, it's important to use this video and this example to say to ourselves, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to get a team championship? If so, that's fine. But now we need one man, young man, to perform at a very, very high level. And there's no wiggle room. He has to win everything. And he has to compete in events during the same time and do something new that he hadn't trained for in a meet setting. He may have practiced, doing these things at practice, but in a track meet setting. To perform at your best 100%, you need to be 100% rested, 100% ready to go. And if you're not at 100%, you're not going to get 100% of your results. Track and field is very cut and dry like that. So if we're looking at it like, hey, you know what? Let's get this athlete 1 to 2 national championships. Maybe we drop him out of the 4x4, or maybe we drop him out of the 200. We already know Boling is vicious at the short sprints and the long jump. Maybe we let him go and say, you know what? The 60 is during the long jump. We don't want that. you know what, Matthew, let's team up. Since we know that, let's make the adjustment. Let's have you do the 200, the 4x4, because those two still require you to run, but it's 2 events less, right? Yeah, and we can get through long jump. So let's do long jump, focus on that, have you do all that, and then later that night, an hour later or whatever, we'll have you run the 200 and then a 4x4. We'll see what happens, right? Because now you can just do the 200, run a safe time to get into the final. Now you have the 200 the next day, and you have the 4x4. We can get this thing going. And what we'll do is we'll train another person to run the 60 and be really, really fast, as fast as you. Many options there. What I've done in the past with Dominique Rotolo, I noticed before season even started, hey, Dominique, you're doing high jump, you're doing triple jump. Here's the issue. When you go to state, you're going to have long jump and triple jump prelims and finals on the same prelims of both events on the same day, which is you're going to have 3 jumps each. And then you're going to have to go the next day where you have both. I think I said it wrong. I believe it was the long jump. Yeah, prelims on both days. And then high jump is going to be only on the Saturday, the next day. It's a lot of jumping. And on top of that, the high jump is during the triple jump, which was her favorite event. So I said, you know what, we're going to have to scratch one. Which one do you prefer? You want to scratch high or triple? And she said, I want to scratch high jump. So that was it. High jump was gone. So now she was able to perform at her best ability in the high jump, even after doing the long jump, but she was able to perform at her best ability without it being conflicted with another event at the same time. That is my personal way of doing things. It is not right. It is not wrong. It is just the way that I chose and decided to run the program that I have. Many athletes hearing this, if you are listening and still here, you understand what is happening. You see what's happening. And I just want to shine the light on, could there have been another way to manage? Is this the best way? Let me know. What do you think? Again, there's no right or wrong on the program or the coaching staff. It's just the way that they decided to do it. How would you, if you were the head coach, run your program, and how would you handle this? One thing I do want to say is when he's rested, just how he opened up with outdoor season, he ran a 10:03 and he only ran the 100. So would you keep him running a couple events here and there, or would you keep him doing multiple events? What are your thoughts? Let me know. And thanks for staying and listening. Till next time.